Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I am your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is to help you create ecosystems and environments where people thrive, just like we said in the introduction. And today I am so excited to be bringing on Megan Schmitt King. She is a trailblazer. She is a rock star. She is a powerhouse in the world of nonprofit development and fundraising. And we're going to be talking to someone that is an expert in nonprofit strategy and fundraising, from securing multi-million dollar partnerships to building campaigns that truly move the needle forward. Megan has seriously done it all. Today, she's sharing the secrets behind her success, from strategic planning to sponsorship activation, and ultimately how to build relationships that last. If you've ever wanted to know what it takes to grow a mission-driven organization, a nonprofit organization, and create contagious culture along the way, you're going to want to listen in closely. Megan, how are you doing?
Hello, I am doing great. Glad to be here this morning.
It's
Thank
so
you.
great to see you again. I remember last week when we were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish we would have just started recording, because you just started going. And I'm like, hold on, I gotta wait until next week. So before we get into all of your insights and your wisdom and your experiences, can you just first start with introducing yourself, and what is the story that got you to the place that you are today?
Sure, I have a sort of varied background or pathway, if you will. I came out of college where I was a lacrosse player and also did ROTC at Notre Dame and was commissioned into the Navy. So I was in the Navy for about 5 years active duty. And then when I came out, I really thought I was going to go work for like a sports company of some sort, and instead got wooed to Charlotte to work for Bank of America in their sponsorship team, just something I hadn't actually thought about in the sports realm. And that really started this path for me that has been all about how do you leverage people's passions to connect to them at a personal level, but then also to do, at the time for the bank, it was to help make Bank of America more resonate more. And now I've really, after 15 years, have been on the nonprofit side or with a sports team for a little bit there. That's really just been an evolution of how do you build valuable partnerships to now do good in the world in a way that is mission centric. So I went and worked for Susan G. Komen. Then I worked for Boys and Girls Clubs, 4-H. I worked for the Oakland Raiders, started their foundation. And then I found my way over to Camp Southern Ground after a couple of other little spots. But everything has been to me about, really now it's about veteran support, youth support. How do we build these great partnerships that aren't just about a mark or about a brand, but it's really about the connection that each of us have to something we care about. And so now I'm the Chief Development Officer and Strategy Officer for Camp Southern Ground, which does focus on veterans and youth development through a summer camp. And it really has been just like the best, sort of connection point for me on this unique journey where I have done corporate, I have done sports, I have done military, and it's all just continues to evolve in a way that keeps me excited every day and helps me, feel good about what I'm doing and bringing a mission forward for others to connect to. But then also, like you said, building these partnerships that are more than just a transaction. But that really did start. I mean, now it's sort of funny to look back, but it was, over 20 years ago where I was thinking through not only my, what's after the military. I could not have imagined that this is where I'd be today as I was in the Navy, but I'm grateful for the path and all the good I get to do today.
I love that. And you've had a very wide career. You've done a lot of different things, a very extensive background. One of the things that really resonated that you said is that you have a passion for getting behind or getting other people to get behind things and missions, and also how to establish and build valuable partnerships. How would you describe a valuable partnership? What does that really look like?
I think that looks like both parties really feeling like they're getting something out of the relationship. And so I think you and I spoke about, now that I'm on the nonprofit side, I think a lot of people talk about funders, and I really like to think about them as partners. And the valuation part of it comes through. They're not just supporting a cause; they want to make sure they're feeling value back to their stakeholders, to their customers. They're really thinking about this in a multidimensional way. And
Perfect.
so I think that's what helps create that valuable partnership and relationship, is that it's not just one moment in time. It's how do we think through, hopefully, a year that's going to go into longer term relationship over multiple years, because you can just continue to build. And that's really, I think, if we're not focused on the today, well, we all want to, have wins today. When we're thinking about the long term, I think we're making different decisions because we want to make sure both sides are really happy, and we're listening to each other in a way that we know what matters, and we're thinking about that for today, but also 3 years from now, so that we don't sort of lose sight of the value of the positive relationship.
Question for you. I don't believe that
Mhm.
you can build something until you establish it, and you can establish something until you understand what you're going after. A lot of people talk about building and cultivating and growing relationships, but how do you even know what types of relationships, and how do you vet the types of partnerships that you even need to be able to grow your institution or your organization?
That's a great question. I think it's one that we, especially on the nonprofit side, sort of struggle with almost daily, because we'll field phone calls from someone who wants to partner and they want to give you some sort of, we thrive on the funding. It is what, that's why
Yeah.
we're here, or why, our rules exist,
Yeah.
is that we do need the funding, but we can't take it all if we don't share common values and we're not aligned in wanting to do right by, for us, it's either veterans or youth or their families. And so it's really starting from that understanding. Do we have aligned values? You know, are we looking for the same ultimate goal? So whether they want to sell a widget, or I want to make sure that we can serve one more veteran, at the end of the day, are we still talking about it in a way where they understand the positive value of a veteran, and not just about, oh, if I partner with you, someone's going to buy one more product of mine? So we
Interesting.
really are trying to think through, is the brand alignment there? For sure. Those are easier to say no to if the brand alignment's not there. But if in the questioning and in the beginning, sort of that initial phase of getting to know each other, it's clear that the objectives aren't aligned, sometimes we have to say no.
No, I love that. And I think it's easier saying no when the brand doesn't align. And walk me through your process when the brand does align. How do you actually go about building and cultivating a relationship? What are your touch points that you recommend to our audience? What are the things that you look for so that you can really be able to cultivate this relationship before you can secure that gift or that donation in a sense?
I mean, I think it comes in a variety of ways. I think in this virtual world, it is a lot of telephone or video calls like this, but it's also taking note of events that partners are engaging with today, or volunteer experiences that they are putting together for their employees. So it's really taking a harder look, I guess, at their full picture of activities and engagement with their brand today. So how are they talking to their customers? Are they already investing in our cause in some other way? What's important to them? Just trying to get an understanding of, why are they looking for partners like us? Why do they want to invest in our mission? Is it, something local? Is it national? Is it long term? There's just a lot of questions, I think, that we start going through, and just getting to know each other. And if we can, we'll visit them in their environment and join a volunteer activity, or vice versa. So a lot of it for us, I think, it's also that in-person component. So for me, I like to try to get people to our camp. It's 400 acres in beautiful, Georgia, outside of Atlanta. And it's almost, they almost can't picture it until they're on site. And so for me, that's a big part of the relationship building. Do they come? Do they see that the magic can happen once they set foot on our grounds? And then I think that really brings such a personal touch. And then to some degree, the same, if I can get to their location, whether it's their office or their headquarters or an event that they're sponsoring already, you just get a different sense of how the relationship can build because you see it in action. And so it makes it, I think, a little bit more real than just maybe an objective that you put in an email on a sheet of paper.
One of the questions that I always get is, Kyle, I understand how to make relationships or create them, cultivate them, but how do I get people to go from it feels like a friendship to actually I'm asking you for money? Like, can
Yeah.
you talk about the psychology or even the complexities of transitioning a donor from engagement to the actual execution phase?
I think that's hard for almost everyone. And oftentimes it's like, oh, I don't want to feel like a salesperson. And not that a salesperson is wrong or different in any way, but you're so focused on the mission that it's hard to then switch. And so we often feel that a lot with board members or just other networked connections who want to help make the introduction, but don't want to then say, hey, you should give. So part of it is just getting comfortable with the ask. But I think the ask is easier if we're really focused on the outcomes and that value matrix. So if we can say, when you invest today, you're not just investing in this beautiful land, but you're investing in, kids developing confidence. I think the question or the ask becomes easier because you're tying it to that outcome. And then you're potentially tying it back to, when you show that you're investing in kids and building their confidence and increasing their empathy and their connection to just an inclusive environment, it gives that partner the opportunity to go back and tell their stakeholders or say, hey, moms, if that's their target audience, we really care about what you think. And here's how we're doing it. So it makes the ask easier, I think, when you really are building on what the money ultimately is going to fund. And it's not the today, it's that build. But it's not easy. I think each person is slightly different, and it's in that relationship building where you determine how do you make the ask based on, it's easy. It doesn't always work. And oftentimes I don't feel like it does, that you just say, hey, fund us today. I wish we all had people and companies out there that would just give you money for asking. But it's in that relationship building where you help determine, do we ask today, or is this going to take a month? Is it going to take 6 months? Sometimes it takes 18 months to cultivate a relationship. And that's hard because you're wondering, is the time I'm putting in today worth it? And I will tell you, it is worth it, because those are the relationships that are really, they're sticky in a different way, but you're going to have someone who's going to stay with you for the long term. I think if it takes that long build to understand, ask their questions, get their questions answered. So I think everyone's a little bit different, but it's also just getting over the hump of, I have to ask, and learning. I think each experience helps us fine tune our own way in which we do ask.
When did you recognize, Megan, that it was worth it? Like, I call them magic moments. And it's that magic moment where you either created magic or you recognized the magic was real, where it was cultivating this relationship with this donor, or even you saw the impact in real time. What was one of those moments that you can go back to in your experiences?
Yeah. So, there's been so many. I think that's why I love the work that I do, and that in each experience it's slightly different. And it just helps continue to build. But probably one of the first was when I was still on the corporate side and I was funding sports partnerships. But it was less about connecting the bank client to, say the Cardinals, because that was one of my teams and also one of my favorite baseball teams. It was less about that. And it was more about the fact that when Bank of America sponsored that baseball team, we could also at the same time bring in 100 children from the market who had never, to have them walk into a baseball stadium, see their eyes wide open, like oh my goodness, this could be my future. But at the same time, it's that community connection that you just can't even bottle. I wish you could. But that was probably the first where I thought, you know what? It's not just about the sponsorship and the branding that we get. And so everyone's going to recognize our brand mark. They're going to think, oh, wow, well, they're investing in my team. They're investing in my community because you saw the kids come in and you could just see their smiles and they wanted to do whatever it was to have more experiences like that and just be excited about their next step forward because of this one great experience that then helped fund their school. So it's moments like that where you can see it's not about the brand mark, but it is about the people that you're touching. And how that just makes them feel. And so that I think that's when I was like, I love sports, but I want to use it to do good. And so today I'm using entertainment more with Zach Brown Band for Camp Southern Ground, but it's the same idea. It's not just sports and entertainment make everyone, in an ideal world, they're lifting them up. But then when you have the community impact alongside of it, it's just that much more exciting.
One of the things that I appreciate about your background is that you've seen it all. You've been on the strategy side, you've been on the development side. I guess my question in planning, I guess, campaigns, how do you balance the creativity but then also the analytics when you're trying to resonate with an audience, but trying to deliver results as well?
Right. It's gotten a lot. I feel like that we have more analytics today, obviously, than years ago. Just the digital aspect of engagement has been really great to be able to test and see how people are reacting to a message or even an image, because what I think and what our marketing or our storytellers think might not be exactly the right mindset that the end user is in. So we try to do almost a weekly review of how's the campaign metric? How are they working? Are we reaching the people we think we're going to? Are they transacting in a way with us? What is it that they're engaging with? For us, is it stories of impact? Is it sharing their own photos to be a part of our community? Is it donating? We really try to balance every campaign so that it's a mix of sort of everything. And then, as we go and then year over year with the campaigns, just fine tuning. So if we find one message that works better for the fundraising, we'll dial that up for that pulse period. But if we really want like a social takeover engagement, what's resonating? How do we get them to engage with us? I'd say that's the space we're still figuring out and trying to get our arms around today. Just the ever-changing world of social.
Yeah.
But I like that. I think that's also why I like strategy, because it's how do we look at our numbers? How do we understand the data that we're seeing, both good and bad? Like in my mind, data is all good, but it might not tell the story you want it to tell. And then you can get better. So, it's about what's effective, what's efficient. It's a constantly changing dynamic, but it's one I think I really like. And I think our team at camp really likes, because we can change things. We don't have to be stuck in an idea or a campaign that's not working. We can take the data, learn from it, and continue to tweak to make sure our story is getting out in a way that resonates.
Talk to the new fundraiser. Talk to the one that this is their first year, and the data says 18 months is usually the time frame that we see of people even leaving this space or these roles. Talk to that new fundraiser that is coming in, that they're maybe hungry, but they don't know the strategy, they don't have the list. What would you recommend for them to do in building the list, building their own capacity, cultivating those relationships, and closing deals?
Yeah, I think it's about building habits. So everything is a learning process. So it would be, meeting with others in the space to learn, what are the tricks that have worked for each person? What are you potentially focused on? Is it mass giving? Is it mid-level? Is it major gifts? Do you really want to be more focused on corporate or foundation? And oftentimes for nonprofits, you're doing it all, especially as a young fundraiser. And you probably have a number on your head and you're so focused on that number that you don't then take the time to think through what are the steps I'm going to take and be consistent with those. So that's why I think habits are really important. So start your day, understand, this week, perhaps, am I going to meet with one person outside of my network? Am I going to spend an hour each morning doing research? Am I going to understand who's in our database today? What are the tools I have to use? How are you using those every week? But doing it in a really scheduled way, or it doesn't have to be overly scheduled, but if you just know that you're going to have certain touch points every day to every week, I think that keeps us from going too far down into a rabbit hole. Because even today, many years into this, I'll say, okay, I've got to spend my time today to look back and make sure, who are the donors we haven't touched base with recently. And I'll find myself on a completely different tangent. And so just having that, having the ability to stop, say, no, I have the freedom to continue to go into that, onto that tangent, but I've got to come back and make sure I take care of that another time this week. And then little wins matter. And so that's the other thing. Like I would say, build some habits, make sure you're following a general schedule and you don't lose sight of the many different touch points that you can have both externally with others who have done this, internal to your own team, stay connected to the mission. And then little wins matter. So the little will start to snowball and you're going to just start building your own confidence, but it's going to take time. I think we live in a world where it's instant gratification at all points. What if I don't win right now, it's not going to work. And I just don't think that doesn't set any of us up for success. And so that's a good reminder that, it is going to take time, but the little things matter. Someone answering your phone call. Why was it that they answered your phone call? Why did they schedule one with you? What was in the message that you reached out with? Take those wins and write them down. And then feed that back into, your schedule, your habits. And then you just start fine tuning that. And I think that, that helps us stay focused on the long term and not oh no, I didn't make any progress today. Every day is progress. And it's important to remember that.
Let me ask you this. A lot of people, I love every day is progress, and we have to remember that because a lot of us only identify success and measure success based upon dollars raised. Right. What are some of the other metrics beyond dollars raised that you believe measure success in this field?
I think conversations matter. I think new conversations matter. Today, I'm really excited when someone wants to come out and have a tour, or someone wants to share our story with others, because we can't do it all on our own. And so those don't always have dollar signs attached to it, but it's one more touch point that I feel like that's a win in my mind. Growing a database or growing your constituent base. That doesn't mean your database is always giving, but it's one more person who can tell your story. And for us, I'm thinking not only about the dollars we can raise, but I'm also making sure or thinking through, is this going to potentially help someone get to us to be a part of our programs? And that's a win too. So as a fundraiser, it's easy to get focused on those dollars, but when you wake up in the morning and you close your computer at night, it's the mission and it's the programs and the outcomes that you're delivering that are the real wins for that person, that family, that community. And so if you make one more connection to that, I think that's I feel like that's a good win, and that's a metric that we want to try to track.
What is if you were to start it all over and you had a grassroots organization that you were running and they had never raised any money, they didn't know where to start, they didn't have a base, What would be your step-by-step process on building their infrastructure strategy so that within a year they could potentially be in a position to make some impact?
That's a great question. I don't think like you need a huge, overly robust $100,000 CRM platform, but I do think in the beginning it is about understanding your mission, your outcomes that you're driving towards, and then finding those like-minded individuals who might help fund today, but then also are going to almost be they're going to be your arms and legs out in the community. And then what is the system, whether it's you're starting with an Excel spreadsheet or some small donor platform, which there are a number of them that you can get today that will do some basic reporting. And then it's how do you continue to stay connected to those who invest in you in the beginning? And so continuing to cultivate those who align with you today, and then just being I really focused on who's with you, how do you continue to grow those who are like-minded, how can they share your storytelling in a way that you're continuing to grow, but you're not losing sight of those who are with us in the beginning. We're still trying to get our arms around that today as an organization that has been in existence 14 years.
Wow.
It's how do we make sure that we haven't lost those that invested in the vision in the beginning? Because in the beginning, everyone is focused on your vision is great. At some point, it's going to shift to, has your vision become a reality that you're actually doing the good that you said you're going to, or your outcomes matching the vision? And sometimes they might not, but it's being honest with those and telling the story of how you're evolving to do good through your nonprofit, that I think you're going to keep your donors, you're going to keep your fans, if you will, because they're going to see how you're growing and keeping the mission. Moving from vision to outcomes is a process in itself. But being able to tell that story and for others to feel your growth is really important, because they will have been there from the start. And so they're going to want to see you succeed. And so I think that's part of it, is just giving them the nuggets of here's the success, here's our lessons learned. And then you just continuously start to grow that. I wouldn't be focused. You can't be super focused on the big dollars up front. It'd be nice if you had a couple of key champions who could help invest, like seed funding almost. But it is about being realistic about what a 3-year plan looks like. How are you going to get there? What are the steps you're taking on storytelling, on your actual outcomes, and then the fundraising alongside of it.
What's one mistake that you usually see leaders make in the fundraising and development space, and how can they avoid that moving forward?
I think sometimes it's like believing your own. I'm forgetting what the phrase is, but like drinking your own Kool-Aid is one of the things that I'm like, we believe what we're doing, which is why we're all in the world that we're in. But oftentimes I think leaders just immediately jump to, well, we're doing the greatest thing. Maybe don't ask the hard questions or don't tell the stories to continue to continue to show the outcomes that the mission is delivering on. And so they almost jump to the ask too soon, because for years they've just been, believing that everything we're doing is great. And I think there are so many options out there for relationships and fundraising and social shares. You can't turn around without someone asking you to be a fan of theirs or invest in them. And so we have to be able to, I think, ask the hard questions of ourselves so that we make sure we're prepared to tell that to the whoever the relationship might be, the donor, the corporation. But sometimes, like I said, I feel like you immediately get to the ask and you're like, well, why wouldn't they invest in us? Like and I agree. Why wouldn't they invest in us? But sometimes it takes a little bit more showcasing the outcomes, how we've gone from vision to outcomes, and what does a longer range plan look like for us, so that the donor themselves don't feel like this is just, it's I feel like at some point it can feel very transactional, even though you've spent 5 years building a relationship. It's easy to then just fall back into, oh, well, they're going to give every year. And you're like, no, you have to keep cultivating. You got to keep telling the story. Why are we doing the good work we're doing? And how are we tracking that?
What are some of the trends that you're seeing, Megan? Like as you look forward with technology and just the economy and where we're going, what are some of the trends that you see shaping, I guess, the future of nonprofit,
Mhm.
whether it's nonprofit development or sponsorship or even nonprofit digital engagement?
Social media continues to be, you know, an opportunity I think we're all trying to figure out in the influencer marketing space. Um, the younger generation of donors are not reacting in the same way donors of 20 years were. So, how are we giving them small ways to engage? I feel like they need to understand they need to trust you sooner, but they're going to give you less in the beginning. Well, 20 years ago, it felt very different. I think, people were more willing to trust in what you said and a little less, hard questions, if you will. But also it's smaller, understanding the smaller donations, the engagement of the up and coming generations is something that we're tracking and trying to just understand. How do we give the small wins to our followers? How do we engage them in social or leverage their influence to amplify our work and celebrate, that continuing to grow? I also think we're seeing more around this idea of like, we don't need, I don't know if the number is still there, but like 40,000, there are 40,000 plus veteran organizations. And so we've seen some trends where funders are saying, hey, don't do what this other organization is doing. I'd actually really rather you collaborate and I'll fund that partnership. Because when you come together and collaborate, then the person is actually the person, the family, the outcomes are going to be that much more amplified. And so, there's constantly flux in the donor wallet. So if we can show that we're working collaboratively with others, I think that continues to bring us to the top of some donors' mindsets, because they're thinking, great, if I invest in this project, I'm helping two organizations or more. And so and outside of your typical collaborations, I think the same is going to continue to grow and be important. So not only veteran organization, but healthcare and veteran, or healthcare and youth, school and after school, just there's just so many opportunities for collaboration that I think when we invest in that, everyone wins in a bigger and better way. And then the other thing that we've seen, which isn't new, but I do think continues to gain more emphasis, especially on the corporate side, is what's that, not only 365 days of the year, but 360-degree sort of partnership. How can I get my employees who might not be able to give you a lot, but they want to roll up their sleeves and they want to share in your mission? So employee engagement opportunities, storytelling, building content together. It's not just about one donation today from a big corporation. It's about, how do we tell the story year round in a way that my employees and stakeholders get their, roll up their sleeves and dive in with us. And so we're spending more time in that space too, on how do we engage more with the employees? How do we build content? How do we build volunteer opportunities? How do we get their camper? How do we get their youth to come and be a camper with us? So yeah, those are the three areas. It's always changing, but it's a fun space to be in because of that.
What keeps you inspired, Megan? You've been doing this work a long time. Like, what keeps you inspired to continue to do this work? What keeps you inspired to continue to show up for organizations wherever you go?
I mean, for me, I grew up in a military family. I had a really strong network as we moved town to town across military networks and military bases. And now I've got 13-year-old twins. And so the youth development space continues to be as important to me. So I'm inspired to get up and care about what I'm doing, that I can see the positive outcomes. So like this weekend, I'll be with a number of veterans who have been through our program, and they come back and they tell good stories about how they're connecting more with their family, or how they got that job that they really wanted, or they got their kids out and now they're coaching their baseball team. And then the same on the kids side. We're heavy veterans right now, but we'll run into families that share, oh my goodness, we tried new food and we made like Wednesday night, we made a family meal all from produce, and it was inspired by what we did at summer camp. And so it's those little moments where you just see the impact that you're having on someone or a family that keep me going. And then I see it in my family. We're veterans. When I see my kids get excited about the work that I'm doing, that, they go to school and they talk about the work I'm doing, that gets me excited too, because it's like, if we can inspire those who are coming behind us, I'm then inspired by the work that I'm seeing happen every day.
Let me ask you this. A lot of people, leaders, as well as organizations, stray away from failure, or even talking about failure. But I believe that failure is some of our biggest lessons that we can learn in those critical learning moments. What is one, I don't want to call it failure, what's one moment that really taught you a lot, and that was that critical learning moment for you in your career?
Oh goodness, I've had a ton. I'm trying to think like what I failure to me. I think you fail forward. I think it's a mindset. I think I've been called a hole poker before, which is sort of fun. And that I feel like that's negative. I'm like, I'm inquisitive because I want to learn from, like, I'm not poking apart things. I want to learn from what we've done, what worked, what didn't. And so I fully believe in the fail forward model. I think I grew up an athlete. I think that's very much a part of the athlete mindset. You can't win every game. I mean, I wish we won every game, and maybe some teams mostly do, but that's hard. Like, as an individual, to be able to know that the failure does not define you. It's how you then, what you do with it. Do you learn from it? So goodness, I mean, I'm trying to think of like a moment. I missed a contract deadline once that ended up being extremely expensive moment for us on the corporate side. We made the most of it. We spun it forward, but at the same time, it was like, that's where I learned you got to actually pay attention to deadlines. You're not supposed to. They don't move often. There's a deadline for a reason. I'm trying to think what other big ones, but to me, I think it's a bunch of little ones that I've really have been a part of my career and my life, where those failure moments, I don't let them add up, but I learn from them and try to assess them in a way that I can grow from them. And then, like I said, I'm constantly trying to assess. So you can always say something's great. You can make all data work for you. And so that's where I do sometimes try to pull back and say, like, yeah, but what was the real lesson learned here? Even though it looked great to everyone, it's sort of like a wedding. Like, everyone attending the wedding doesn't know the little detail that was missed. The same thing applies at an event and a partnership. You always have an opportunity to make it better and just continue to work on it.
Megan, if you had 60 seconds to share a message with our whole audience, what would you say? Oh
goodness. I think I would just find find the inspiration in your day, and find the small things to celebrate, and ask your questions along the way. What could have done better? What can I learn from? But at the end of the day, be proud of the work that you put in today, and know that every day really is a step in the right direction. It's progress. And some days it's going to be big and some days it's going to be small. But having that perspective that this is all about, this is a long-term plan for you and your organization and your relationships. So celebrate the small, but know it's all a path forward to, continued greatness.
Megan, I appreciate you so much. How can
Thanks, Kyle.
how can we support the organization as well? Is there any projects that you all are excited about?
We are excited about a number of projects. So campsouthernground.org is where you can find out more. Follow us on social. This is a busy season. We've got, we're actually partnering with TikTok for the first time tomorrow for an event with another partner, Blue Star Families and Ford. So like those sorts of moments are just huge moments for us. But then we have, any number of ways to engage. So check us out on, check out our stories of impact. Right now, we're asking people to share a photo of the veterans in their lives, because we're just trying to make a positive wave of support for veterans as we come around Veterans Day. And then, you come out and do yoga with us if you're in the Atlanta area, or come to a bigger event. There's no shortage of ways to engage. And all of it for us is, how do we make sure one more child is served at summer camp? And how is one more veteran served through, our programs that are going to change their lives, and make sure that they are well-resourced and well-prepared to make tomorrow a better day. I'm just thrilled to be able to be a part of the organization and share a little bit about it with you. But check us out, reach out to me on whether it's on LinkedIn or through Camp Southern Ground. I'm always happy to have a conversation. Would love to have you come down to camp and tour sometime too, Kyle. I know you're not too far from us.
Know, and I'll be there.
I know. Come on down. But yeah, there's just, we're trying to get people engaged with us in all sorts of ways, and I'm excited about this opportunity with you. And like I said, I can get on any soapbox for veterans and youth development, and I'm proud of the work that the team is doing. So the greater chance I get to share that, I'm just so appreciative.
Megan, thank you so much. Thank you for not only your insights and your wisdom, but for your heart, for how you're continuing to show up, not just for veterans, but for youth, and how it's so much in alignment with who you are as not just a professional, but as a woman as well. And I just thank you for you showing up today. And for any of our listeners, the takeaway is clear. Impact comes from vision, from strategy, from your heart, and from bold action. Do not settle for the status quo. You have to lead, you have to innovate, and you have to be committed to making a difference, even if the difference is uncomfortable. It doesn't benefit you in the various moment. Megan, we are so grateful for your time, for your wisdom, and again, for your heart. And again, one of the questions that we also always ask on the end of our podcast episodes is, what type of culture are you spreading? Culture is in anything and is everywhere, and the energy you bring is the culture you create. Make yours worth catching. We'll see you all next episode.
I love it. Thanks, Kyle.